Our next guest has written a children's book about gun safety. His name is Yehuda Remer, and he joins us live now. How's it going?
Going pretty well. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Good to see you again after first being introduced to you at SHOT Show.
Yep.
SHOT Show annual meetings. So tell us about your book.
I started writing a book following my parents finding out that I purchased my first firearm.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, I was out of the house and I already had 2 kids at the time, but they found out, and I grew up in Los Angeles where,
Gotcha.
Just thinking about a gun will put you in jail.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, so I started writing a book because I wanted my children to learn about gun safety and America's gun culture from somebody who is a somewhat knowledgeable gun owner and not from Hollywood and media and, the likes of the left.
Yeah. I always find it very interesting how the other side, and when I say the other side, I generally say anti-gun, they overlook the gun safety, almost Nazism, so to speak, when it comes to the idea of safety that we hold in the gun community in and of itself. And we don't get enough credit for that in many ways, because I think for them to acknowledge it would basically kind of undermine the entire rhetoric that they've been kind of putting out there for the longest time, that we are usually irresponsible, that we're crazy, and we're just hell-bent on mass murder and terror. But then here you are putting together an entire children's book with respect to gun safety. And I'm pretty sure you don't get credit for that either. Above and beyond, individuals like me who understand the importance of it. And so where do you see the book going forward? How do you see it affecting the overall idea of firearm safety going forward?
Well, first off, there's nothing like my book on the market. And one of the reasons why I wrote it, besides just my kids, was to change America's gun culture, to start, like you said, cultivating gun safety into the minds of Americans. For people like you and me who believe in the Second Amendment and believe in the NRA, gun safety is just a given. But there are so many people out there that aren't necessarily against guns, but don't necessarily want to own guns because they just don't understand the gun culture and they're afraid of them. And that's another reason why I wrote the book, is that it doesn't make a difference who you are, whether you're on the left or right. This book is solely a book about gun safety, nothing more. So, what are you going to do if you send your kid out to a playground and they're at a park and they find a gun? What right, left doesn't make a difference. What are you going to do? What's your kid going to do?
Yeah.
And that's why. So I'm hoping that my book gets circulated enough into the culture that just to plant the seeds of gun safety into the minds of other Americans.
I love it, and especially from a children's, definitely being aimed at a younger audience, and in many ways. My first gun I bought, I was still at home, and I hid it for my mother. It was an AK-47, at least my first rifle. Yeah, I know. I remember hiding it underneath the bed because my mom didn't believe in locks, even though I had a lock on my door. And I point that out to say, creating this kind of nefarious nature behind firearms in and of themselves, it doesn't do anything for improving gun safety as a whole. And I'm largely piggybacking off of what you said. The more we're outwardly talking about the idea of firearm ownership, the more we just accept the reality that there are guns in this country, and there will continue to be guns in this country. Like you pointed out with the example, left, right, center, up, down, doesn't matter. You find a gun in the park. As a kid, what do you tell your kid to do?
Right.
And I think books like this really help drive that conversation to the forefront, because it does have a crossover effect that I think is incredibly beneficial. You don't want to own a gun, that's fine. But you're naive to think that you will probably never come across one, or that your kids may never come across a gun in this country. And
right.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and like I was saying, is that kids are going to be exposed to the gun culture, whether it's from the media or whether it's the TV shows that these kids are glued
Yeah.
to, and sitting on the iPhones and iPads, which is a whole different conversation. But they're glued to it. They will be exposed. What do you want to do?
Yep. Yep. So how did you go about getting Larry Victor's involved with the project?
So when I first got my publishing deal with a great company called White Feather Press, the owner's been phenomenal. I mean, just a blessing. I just reached out to people in the gun industry saying, "Hey, nothing like this is on the market,
Yeah.
and I would love to get your endorsement." And the first person to actually give me their endorsement was Alan West. I know you just had him on the show. He was amazing. I live in Dallas also, so I was able to meet with him at his office, and he was really helpful. Then I just reached out to Larry Vickers, and guy's been awesome. I mean, really the whole way through, just been so supportive, and I greatly appreciate that. So
Absolutely. So for people who don't know, what distinguishes this book, and why is it so unique compared to everything else that's out there?
Well, there's nothing like it out there. I mean, look, I know we're on NRA, and they have amazing material.
Mm-hmm.
The Eddie Eagle program has taught my kids before I wrote my book. Project Child Safe, another great one. My book is written from the perspective of a child. It's not for parents, although there are a lot of parents that can benefit from my book too, as a refresher course.
Yeah.
But my book is told through the eyes of a little boy, 7 years old, who just wants to emulate his father and practices the gun safety that he sees his parents take. And there's nothing like that, and that's what distinguishes it, is that if your child is just beginning to read at age 5, 6 years old, they can read it. If you're 10, 11 years old, you can read it. So it's different in that aspect.
Awesome. I think that's incredibly unique and very interesting, honestly. So how much of that did you actually pull from your own kid's perspective? Because I'm pretty sure there's a certain place in your mind you had to go to be able to kind of write through the eyes of a child.
Well, my wife calls me very immature, so it wasn't a long stretch. Wasn't a long stretch, but now I have a 7-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 1-year-old, and it was fun to go through it step by step.
Mm-hmm.
I've always enjoyed creative writing, so that was also a very big help. But my kids definitely helped along the way. So
absolutely. And so, how has the feedback and the response been to the book thus far?
Overall, it's been great feedback. There's a lot of people out there who are gun snobs, and I had one person tell me that they were thinking about carrying the book, but one of the pictures in my book looked like a Glock, and it didn't have the Glock safety on it. I was like, man, it's just a picture of a gun. It's not like what it is. What it is.
Forest for the trees, man. Forest for the trees.
Yeah, but overall, it's been pretty positive, and I'm waiting for Shannon Watts to get a copy of it.
Hey, I can tweet her for you. Me and Shannon are like this. We're like this. I know it doesn't seem like it on Twitter, but we're like this, right? So I can definitely reach out. Now, I only can communicate with her through Twitter, and she's refused to block me. I'm pretty sure. I guarantee you're blocked right now.
I'm not.
You're not?
Oh,
wow.
And it would be cool. I mean, definitely as a Second Amendment advocate, we all.
Well, I guarantee you after this, you will be blocked.
That's good with me. There's no such thing as bad press. Hey. But no, overall, it's been a very positive feedback. I've been getting a lot of positive feedback,
mm-hmm.
and not a lot of negative feedback yet. But again, the book only came out a few months ago, so it's still so fresh and new.
Gotcha.
I'm waiting for it.
Yep. No, absolutely. So we got about a minute, so I'll let you go ahead and plug the book away. Let everybody know the title of the book, where they can get the book.
So the book is called Safety On. It's an introduction to the world of firearms for children. You can get it at Amazon.com. You can get more information at YehudaRemer.com, YehudaRemer.com. I did convert it into a coloring book so that you can read the book to your child and then let them really immerse themselves into the story and memorize the visuals by coloring it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I thank you very much for joining me here today and sharing your book with us. I think it's invaluable. I think the more we can really get out there the idea of real gun safety and not these organizations purporting to be gun safety organizations when they're really just advocates for anything that has to do with gun control. But real true gun safety. I think you can't pound that in enough, especially at a young age for a lot of kids. And I think that does more to keep kids safe than anything any of these other organizations out there are doing. And I really thank you for that.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, you definitely have a good one. And anybody else out there who's watching this, be sure and go and pick up the book if you have kids. And if you're immature like he and I are, you probably can stand to learn something from it too.
I know that.
But thank you very much, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, no other choice gun training.